What is going on, guys? It is Venom Search here, and welcome back to another episode of ESO. Today we are checking out the Champion of the Hist armor set. This is found in Murkmire, and we will actually be combining another set from Murkmire as well, just to make it easier for you guys. Now first, with this build, check out our main stats here. This is a PvE focused build. So we are currently running 13k magicka, about 24k max health, 37k stam, 500 magicka recovery, 300 health recovery, and 1500 stam recovery. Our spell damage we don't really need to worry about. Our weapon damage is about 6k. We have perfectly 50% crit chance and a little over 2.5k physical and spell penetration. We do not have any resistance buffs, so we are currently running 15.7k spell resist and about 14k physical resist. Now we do have all attributes into stamina, as this is a stamina build. We are a Nord for reasons I'll explain later. We are using the Thief Stone. We want to get as much crit chance as possible with this build. Our armor sets do not give us crit chance at all, and it was very difficult to get to 50%. So the main set of today, as I said, is Champion of the Hist. This is found in Murkmire, and it is a heavy armor set, so we are using it on the weapons and the jewelry. Now on the weapons, we are using 2 precise daggers to get as much crit chance as possible. The first piece gives us spell and weapon damage, max stamina again, 1600 max health, which on our class, which you'll see later, there's quite a bit of max health in this build, so we don't need to put health anywhere else. And then you gain minor heroism at all times while you are in combat, generating 1 ultimate every 1.5 seconds. So this set, if you're wanting to do an ulti build, technically it is an option. However, you can get minor heroism from skills and from special potions that do cost quite a bit using the dragon materials. So this is not as much of a desirable set, but that is the entire point of this series. We are looking at the sets that people don't look at. We want to make an ultimate generating build. To do that, we are using Deadwater's Guile. This is also found in Murkmire. It's a medium set, which is perfect for what we need. Now, if these are both from Murkmire, so that means while you're farming for one set, you're also going to start picking up pieces of the other, and over time you'll just end up collecting both, which is perfect. We are using 5 pieces across the main body pieces, except for the head and helmet, as we do use a monster helm in this set. So everything divines and max stam enchants. The first piece gives us weapon and spell damage, max health again, max stam again, additional weapon and spell damage, and then whenever you kill an enemy, you gain 15 ultimate. There is no cooldown on that. So if you burst out a bunch of people down, you gain 15 ultimate per person. Now while that is amazing, our other set, the Champion of the Hist, is only applying 1 ultimate every 1.5 seconds. So this is generating while we're fighting. This has to be once you kill the enemy, and you have to get the kill. It's not when somebody dies. So if an ally gets your kill, you don't get that ultimate. So you have to get the final blow. Now on the jewelry, we are using all infused weapon damage. That is to try to boost up our weapon damage as much as possible, since these pieces are mainly just max stams and health, which is not helping much. For our monster set, you have a couple of options. We are currently using Balorgs. You can get this in Vet March of Sacrifices. We are currently using light pieces. I'll explain it over later when we get to passives, but these are better off being light than heavy or medium, because we need to get as much crit as possible, and these two let us do that. The first piece gives us spell damage, and then whenever you use an ultimate ability, you gain weapon and spell damage equal to the amount of total ultimate consumed and physical and spell penetration equal to 23 times the amount for 12 seconds. So if we use an ultimate, that costs 100 ultimate. We gain 100 weapon and spell damage, and then we gain 2,300 penetration. Because we don't get ultimate during a fight, besides this set, this is only after we kill somebody. So if you're just facing ads, you're not getting your ultimate until after. So if you have trouble gaining ultimate, you could use Blood Spawn. You get this in Spindle Clutch 2 on Vet. Once again, it would be better to be off doing light. Now we still want to enchant this to be max stam. But first you get stam recovery. And then when you take damage, you have a 6% chance to generate 13 ultimate and increase your resistances by 3.7k for 5 seconds. It can occur once every 5 seconds. This, even though it's only a 6% chance, and when you take damage, it actually procs quite often and it'll help you stay alive more often. Whereas this is just if you want damage output. It's up to you. For the back bar, you have a couple options here. So currently I'm using the Perfected Maelstrom Bow with a infused weapon damage enchant to help us get that back bar increase weapon and spell damage by about 500. When that's equipped, you gain some crit chance, which is okay. You're not on that bar, so that doesn't really matter much. The main reason why we use it is because the second piece increases the damage volley does by 430 per tick, and it increases all the way up to the point where you're pretty much doing double damage with your volley, and it's proccing your enchant every time. So this is pretty major. Now the issue is on our front bar, we're using Champion of the Hist. So when you swap to your back bar, you lose 2 pieces, which means we don't get the minor heroism on the back bar, and you lose 1600 health and about 1k stam. Stam's whatever, but the health, that means your health is going to be constantly fluctuating. But if you wear this on your main piece, then you're going to be having heavy armor instead of medium. It's up to you, but I personally don't really care if my health fluctuates by 1600 when we have basically 24k, and this is without food that increases our health. Currently, we are using Lava Foot. This is the best possible option if you think you have enough health. This gives you the maximum amount of stats for stam possible. You get basically 5k and then about 500 stam recovery. All the fancy gold stuff that everybody uses, yes, it gives you 3k health and 400 recovery, but you only get 3k stam and 340 stam recovery. So for damage, this actually outperforms, and it's cheaper. But if you need to survive, yeah, adding more health and health recovery will help. I don't prefer using the Artaeum Takeaway Broth. If you don't care about recoveries, if you find your recoveries more than enough, you could go with some extra max health. So this still gives you the same amount of stam, but then you also get about 5.4k max health. When you're using that, almost 30k max health, and we're using 5 medium, 2 light. That's a lot of health. A nice mix is Dubious Cameron Throne. You get 300 stam recovery, 3k max stam, 3k max health. Using that as the best of both worlds, you get about 27k max health and about 32.5k max stam. But your stam recovery goes down, so I still would take Lava Foot over anything else. For potions, you can use Tri-Stat, however, through our skills, we do not gain most of the weapon buffs, so during fights, if you don't need the healing magicka and stamina, this will give you stamina and major endurance, which gives you more stam recovery, and then you get brutality and sorcery, which will increase your weapon damage and critical. On our front bar, we do not use enchants, we're actually using a double dot poison. You can get this from your daily login rewards, or you can just craft it. As I said, we are currently with a buff at 50% crit chance. As you can see here, we do not have a lot of crit damage. I mean, when we have the minor force here, we have 30% crit damage on top of the normal 50, so basically 80% crit damage. That's not a lot, so depending on how you guys feel, you could go for more of a penetration and or weapon damage setup. So rather than doing daggers, you can do a sword or a mace. That will give you penetration for the mace, weapon and spell damage for a sword. And then for your Munda Stones, you can do Lover, which will give you more penetration, or the Warrior for more weapon damage. Now on to the skills. We are a Necromancer. There's another option for this build. Since we are trying to do an ulti set, you can do a Nightblade. That is also very good at getting ultimate when you kill things using their ultimate ability that is slotted. However, I am a bit more fond of Necromancers, and they have a unique ultimate that provides a buff that's not common in the game, so it's kind of helpful to pop that as much as possible. So our first skill is using Blood Craze. This is a dual wield skill. This morph allows you to do a DOT, which does about 1k bleed a second, and it'll heal you for about 2k each tick. Next up, we are using Detonating Siphon. It's a Gravelord ability, the last thing you can unlock. Notice this does not have a cost. You are using a body, a corpse. There is no Magicka or Stamina. This is free and it can go up to 28 meters. You violently drain the spark of life from a corpse, dealing 21,000 disease damage over 12 seconds to all enemies around the corpse, about a 5-meter radius around the corpse, and enemies between you and the corpse. This is a tether. Now when it ends, the corpse will actually explode and deal an additional 7k damage to all enemies around it. This scales off of your highest offensive stats. So if you're a Magicka Necromancer, this actually out damages the Magicka version. Since there's also no cost, it doesn't matter if you choose this. But while slotted, your damage is also increased by 3% overall. Now the thing about the Siphon skill is it actually ticks every half second. Now we can actually tether all the way up, like how far this thing can reach. Still, it just stopped about right here. From that body all the way to here. Now you see that blue circle, that's your 5-meter radius, and then if they're caught in this beam, it will damage them. Next up, we are using Beast Trap. This can be found in the Fighters Guild, and it is morphed to Barbed Trap. You plant this down, which takes 1.5 seconds to arms, and it'll last for 15 seconds once it's down on the ground. Once it's triggered, it'll deal 5k bleed damage, and then about a 1.2k bleed damage over each second. But the main reason why we do this is it grants us minor force, which increases our critical damage by 10% during the duration. If the enemy can be immobilized, they will be for 2 seconds. Bosses cannot be immobilized, it does not work on them. You place it down, it takes 1.5 seconds to arm, and then once it's down, an enemy can step on it and it'll pin them down. So let's put it on here. Opens up, closes. Now we have minor force for 20 seconds. Next up, we are using Venom Skull. You lob an explosive skull that deals about 8k poison damage. This is our main spammable for this class and for this build. Every third cast of this ability deals 20% increased damage. While slotted, if you cast any Necromancer ability, it does not even need to be from this tree, it can be from Bone Tyrant or Living Death. If you cast any ability in combat, it will count towards the third cast. So, doing dual wield does nothing. If I do the Venom Skull, you can see that procs a little 1 next to his head. If I do this skill, which we'll go over in a second, now there's a 2 over his head. If I do this skill, now there's a 3 on his head. Now technically it's on the third cast. So if I were to hit the skull now, that's the 4th cast, so we've wasted 1. So it does a big 2-hand one, whereas normally we do 1 hand, big head, 2 hand. Next up, we are using Blighted Blast Bones. This is probably one of our most powerful abilities as a Necromancer, but it's also the most difficult and tricky skill to get used to. So when you hit this, you'll be summoning a skeleton. After 2.5 seconds, then the skeleton will run to the target and explode when it gets close to them, dealing 14,000 disease damage to all enemies nearby. And then it also applies Major Defile to them for 4 seconds, reducing their healing received and health recovery by 16%. Major Defile doesn't do too much in PvE, it doesn't matter too much. It also creates a corpse on death, which we use to combine with our detonating siphon. Here's the thing about blast bounds. So as you can see, I can be all the way back here. This is a 28 meter range for casting, so we can be right here. We hit this. Wait 2 seconds for it to form, then it runs and jumps to it. 17k damage. This is an AoE. Let's put it right there. All of them get hit by that as long as it's in a 6 meter radius. And then we can siphon his body, and as you can see, it's dealing damage every half second. It has more chances to crit, whereas normally it wouldn't. Our main ultimate that we will be spamming is Flawless Dawnbreaker. This can be found in the Fighters Guild once you've leveled it all the way up to 10. This is originally Dawnbreaker, we take Flawless Dawnbreaker. You hit this and you deal about 12,500 physical damage to all enemies in front of you. This is a cone. And then an additional 18,000 damage over 6 seconds. After you activate, your weapon and spell damage is increased by 300 for 20 seconds. Here's the thing with this. We're increasing our weapon damage and spell damage by 300. Sounds a lot like Battleworks. And they stack. So I'm just going to pop this right now. Let's get our back bar glyph going. 6k weapon damage. 7k weapon damage. We gain 1,000 weapon damage from popping our ultimate. Both of them last, this one lasts longer and it produces more. It's for 20 seconds. Battlework only does however much our ultimate is, and it's only for 12 seconds. But we also gain penetration because it's semi-cheap and we're the ultimate generating build. We can pop this out in almost every ad fight. On the back bar, our main heal is Vigor. Now this is in the assault line. This is originally just Vigor, now it's Resolving Vigor morph. This is a quick 4-second heal that does 17,000 health. You gain 17,000 health. That's almost my full health in this. Now the other morph makes it last over, I think it's about 10 seconds, and it produces an AoE, so you do about 2k heals to you and all allies near you. That is a good option if you're doing group content. However, this build, because it's very underused, crappy sets, we don't heal that well. Unless you put on the Arena Pale Order, but at that point you're doing solo stuff, so why not take Resolving Vigor? So a lot of people complain like you have to do PvP to get this. You don't even need to do PvP. You go into there, do their quick little tutorial thing that'll give you some skill points, so you actually can end up getting to Resolving Vigor right away. Next up, we have Poison Injection. This is a bow skill line. You shoot an arrow, deal 4k damage up front, and then 1k poison damage a second. Deal up to 100% more damage to enemies under 50% health. This is our execute, and it's ranged. Now, we don't spam this when they're low health, just because on our back bar we don't have our buffs and we're losing our sets and everything, and so we let the DOT of this do the extra damage. But it is a fairly low cost, pretty quick spammable execute. Next up, we are using Skeletal Archer. This is another source of how we can get corpses on the ground. You summon a Skeletal Archer to fight for you for 16 seconds. The archer will attack the closest enemy every 2 seconds, dealing about 3,000 physical damage. Each time it deals more damage, its next attack will do 5% more than the other attack. That's exponential. Now, it only lasts for 16 seconds, that's 8 attacks, so that's like math and stuff, but that can end up hitting pretty hard. However, it does reset quite often. Now, if you notice, this is a criminal act. This is not. That This is not, but this is. Pretty much anything where you're summoning or dealing anything with corpses, it's criminal. If you cast this in a city, you will be wanted. Be careful. Next up is Soul Trap. Everybody has this when you first start in. You don't even need to put a skill point in it, it's automatically learned. In Soul Magic, morph it to Consuming Trap. This is a very powerful skill. What's nice is it's our one Magicka skill. Just having one Magicka skill on a Stam person is very powerful as far as keeping your resources up. Now you want to make sure, as you can see here, it damage deals based on your highest offensive stats. This does 15,000 physical damage over 10 seconds, or 9k Magicka damage, whichever's higher. This means, since it's based on offensive stats, even though it costs Magicka, we can cast this and it'll be the Stam version of it, but costing Magicka, so we're not heavily using our stamina as much as we could be. But if an affected enemy dies, which they should be, you fill an empty soul gem, woohoo, great for you. But you also heal for 5k, you restore 2.6k Magicka, and almost 7,000 stamina. And that amount of stuff you restore is based on the max resource pools you have, so that can actually be a pretty hefty income of stuff, especially if you got high health. I mean, considering we got 35k stam, this thing does 7k. I mean, if that was your health, you're healing a lot. Next up, we have Endless Hail. This is a weird thing about this rotation that I use. I use a rotation that is not perfectly 10 seconds. There's a slight delay in the rotation, and so while I can go back to this in about 11 seconds, we are relying on volley to proc our back bar enchant. This one. 500 weapon damage, that's quite a bit. The other morph of this that does a lot more damage, almost doubles your damage, is usually better for DPS output. However, with that morph, the rotation we use in this build, we end up having our enchant drop off for the last couple seconds. And so that actually did less damage than using Endless Hail. Since this lasts a couple seconds longer, we're able to keep our enchant procced one more time, enough time for us to circle back and redo it. So it's up to you, but this is out damaging the other morph for this build. Finally, part of the reason why I chose the Necromancer is this ultimate. Now this is a very costly ultimate, it's 225, and it is a criminal act, so be careful where you use this. You take out your giant fleshy thumb and you smash people 3 times, dealing 9k, basically 10k across the board, up to 11k. When you do this, everybody gets major vulnerability for 12 seconds, increasing their damage taken by 10%. There's not many sources of major vulnerability. Now, it has been nerfed. Originally it was 30%, so it's not nearly as effective now. However, it's still very uncommon to get, so it is worth it. Now, part of the Necromancer is we can get ultimate very easily with this one ability, Necrotic Potency. Make sure you get this specific morph. The other one just heals you a lot and makes you a tank. So this costs nothing, first of all, and you only have a 12-meter radius. But when you hit this, you gain 6 ultimate and 1k health every second for 2 seconds per corpse. The heal is based off of your max health. While slotted, your damage taken is reduced by 3%. So, we have our little buddy here. Here's a trick about these things. This last 16 seconds, I just recasted him, he drops a body. Now if I do it right now, he doesn't drop a body. It has to be once he hits about half of his duration. So we're going to wait for him to get down to 8 seconds, and then we're going to proc our Necrotic Potency. So he dies, I suck in his soul, and I gain 6 ultimate, plus some healing. The healing is very small, it doesn't matter too much. But between the Deadwater's Guile, where you get 15 ultimate, and this, where you get 6, that's per person, you can get ultimate very fast. Now with this build, If you're in group content, if you have a strong enough healer, you could replace Resolving Vigor with this. That is usually what I end up doing. Or if I'm running Pale Order Green, I'll do that. But you would need to get rid of your monster set, which is a problem. Getting rid of Blood Craze is also another option because the Soul Trap does outdo the amount of damage. You get basically 17,000 on this, whereas this is only 12,000. Not even, it's more like 11. But this also heals you. There's options here, but Necrotic Potency is the skill that will give you ultimate. If you are a Nightblade, this is much easier. If you just have your Soul Harvest ulti slotted on your front bar, that will give you, I believe it is 10 or 12 ultimate per kill. So you'll actually gain up ultimate much more often. Now this build, using the full DPS skills, not using the Necrotic Potency, even with our crappy armor sets, I was actually able to get about 55,000 DPS on this. Now, I only did one run, and there was quite a bit of mess ups, so there's definitely much more room for improvement on that. But as you can see here, that is me on this build, just doing the Iron Atronach Dirtbag. Next up is our CP. Green Tree, nothing really matters in here. This increases your movement speed out of combat, that can be nice. Increases quality of items you find in chests, that's nice if you're like dungeon running. I like to have fast mounts and not constantly run out, so more movement speed for our mount and gets rid of all stamina for our mount. In the blue tree, make sure you get all your passives. We are using crit damage, the fighting finesse. Make sure that is always on. Backstabber is an option. This technically would outperform and gives you more crit damage. However, we are not exactly a crit damage build. So in that case, you could run Deadly Aim instead, especially because you're not always going to be behind the enemy. I do prefer this in dungeons unless I have a tank. If I'm soloing, this tends to be better. Now we have a lot of damage over time, so Thaumaturge pretty much needs to be on. You could do Biting Aura, since we do have that Blast Bones and some other AoEs rather than single target, but with our light attacks and everything, Deadly Aim seems to outperform. We are also taking Weapons Expert to get 15% more light attack damage. We are not a light attack build, but light attack weaving is very important, can easily be one of the main damage sources in this game, so make sure you do it properly, and the Weapons Expert will actually help quite a bit. In the red tree, we got even more armor, because why not, we need it. Even more health, why not, we need it. I am using Bloody Renewal. This will give us 1500 stam every time you kill an enemy. Once again, this has to be when you get the kill, not somebody else, but it is very nice. You get tons of stam back, and it's basically renewing whatever skill you just used. And if it was an AoE like Blast Bones, you can get multiple procs on this. There's no cooldown. We are also using Survival Instincts. Sorry guys, I don't know what's going on with my voice right now, but we are using Survival Instincts. While you're affected with a status effect, your core combat skills cost 25% less. You get affected by status effects pretty much all the time. There's so much elemental stuff out there. And so this makes your blocking, roll dodging, break free, everything cost less. Now for the rotation, assuming we don't need our heal here and we can put in our like soul siphon thing if you want. We don't have bodies here, so it's not worth it for this demonstration, but make sure your buffs are up, drink your food. First, summon in your Blast Bones and get in your Beast Trap. You want to make sure you start with that. Blast Bones takes the longest to get in, so first you start with your little dude, spawn in Blast Bones. Sometimes I like to throw in Volley after Blast Bones and then do Beast Trap. Setting up, like starting the fight is always dependent on situations. Now for this rotation, the nice thing about Blast Bones is it makes everything very simple. You with this rotation are always going to be doing blast bones, 2 skills, blast bones, 2 skills. Because of the Venom skull that we're using, Venom skull is going to be right after pretty much always. So we are going to do blast bones, blood craze, skull, blast bones, soul siphon, skull. Now, just starting with that, as you saw, I had to wait for that blast bones, that second one to die. If you do it fast enough, your first blast bones will still have a body on the ground. So you do this. So I just siphon from that body, and then my second blast bones goes. Make sure you do your skull next. Now this is where it changes a little bit. Blast bones, beast trap, bar swap. Make sure you're doing your light attack rotations. The bar swap on the beast trap can animation cancel it like that. So normally you put your arm all the way down. Don't light attack after it. You hit it, swap. Volley's a weird one. You do a light attack volley. Poison inject. Soul trap. Summon in your archer and bar swap. You can animation cancel him summoning in just like beast trap. Do a quick little bar swap there. That's your whole rotation. Blast bones, blood craze, skull. Blast bones, siphon, skull. Blast bones, beast trap, swap. Volley, poison inject, soul trap, archer, swap. That is your full rotation. Now if you want to do your Dawnbreaker, I tend to replace a skull with a Dawnbreaker. Blast bones is one of our hardest hitting things, so you want to make sure you do blast bones as often as possible. It's AoE up front, hard hitting. So I'll just do like blast bones, blood craze, ultimate, and then blast bones again, and then continue on. Now if you want to do an ultimate on your back bar, if you want to pop the thumb first and then spam out your Dawnbreakers once you get ultimate going, the thumb is a weird one. If you animation cancel it too early, you will actually end up stopping the skill from proccing. So to stop that from happening, but also making our rotation as fast as possible, we do volley, poison inject, soul trap, then the thumb, then our archer bar swap. So the archer, no matter what, is going to be last, so that way we can guarantee the thumb goes through and then archer. Now you're not going to want to wait as long as I did. That would not be good for your rotation. Let me get some more ultimate here and then I'll show you guys what it'll really be like. So you do your volley, poison inject, soul trap, thumb, archer bolt, bar swap. I don't know why I said ball. So that is the rotation. Now, I am going to go into Skill Caller's Peak. That is always my go-to testing dungeon, and we are going to show how this build works and how well it can generate ulti, even though it's using probably one of the crappiest sets for ultimate generation. Okay guys, take note of my skills here. I keep resolving vigor on, and I'm still using soul trap since that does more damage and it's the magicka based thing, so we get better distribution for stam. And I have replaced blood craze with the soul siphon so we can suck in these bodies as much as we can. So we start with archer, throw in our blast bones, we do our volley, can throw down our beast trap, get some, make sure your potions are up, like that. We already got an ultimate. One thing I forgot to mention, guys, so in the dual wield, whirling blades is a great execute for AoE stuff like what we're doing here. There's a lot of ads, you can spam this and it'll just slaughter people. However, Usually I would use it instead of necrotic potency, so once again we are running into issues as far as what skills we want to use. So I am actually going to replace necrotic potency with poison inject. Since we are not fighting a boss right now, it does not matter. We're going to throw on this so we can do a nice execute around us. So once again, archer, throw in your blast bones, put down your volleys, just start destroying them. Now, this is a hard-hitting dungeon. That's why I like showing this, because you do have to push to survive. Just like that. We, on the first ad wave, we used Dawnbreaker. We were out of ulti. Now we have enough. We actually have a thumb ready to go, which we're going to use on this lovely group. So we're going to throw down our beast trap, get everything ready, and then we're just going to nuke them and hope we don't die. We don't want to be caught in that. Now, like I said, this is not a survival build. I mean, this is a very squishy build. You definitely need some sort of healer or something to help you stay alive in this. I mean, just like that, we have a thumb again, all ready to go. I could have used it in that fight if I wanted. I'm going to use it in here just because I want to. Now, I am using these bodies, as you can see. That can, obviously, like, maybe we already got Dawnbreaker off of, what, 3 ads? So we can spam out our ultis if you want. You can use bodies if you want, but if you're using bodies, that means less ulti for you. So there's a balance to that. I mean, just like that, we thumbed them already. We're trying not to die, hopefully. Remember, Soul's Trap can help you survive. Just like that, got another Dawnbreaker. 2 Dawnbreakers, 1 thumb, and a tiny little fight. So this build, even though we're using a very underused and very crappy build, or set, Champion of the Hist, even though it's only giving us minor heroism, it does add up very slowly. It is mainly Deadwater's Guile and our soul sucking that is carrying us, but it does provide us that minor heroism when we're in combat, which can be nice. Alright guys, I hope this build is at the least working towards the way it was intended. It is pretty good at generating an ultimate, however the set does not help much with that. Now, as you saw, it is quite squishy, but I mean, we are a DPS. This is full out DPS. There is no survival here. This is not a PvP build. We just happen to have a lot of health. Now, make sure you get all of your passives, but the main thing with passives here, in here, when you use an ability on a corpse, you gain 10 ultimate. It can occur every 16 seconds. That's nice to just build up. Since we're soul sucking or we're siphoning with this skill, there's a lot of corpse usage. Now, like I said before, the light armor, the reason why we're using that is to get more penetration and then a little bit more crit rate. Otherwise, if we just did all medium, yeah, we'd have more crit damage, but we don't get much out of that if we don't have a lot of crit. The other thing, by having 2 Fighters Guild skills slotted, we gain weapon and spell damage by 3% for each slotted, so we get 6%. That's nice. But this allows us to have 3 ultimate addition on top of what we already get. We get 3 extra enemy. We get 3 extra ultimate whenever we kill an enemy. So between that, our soul sucking, Deadwater's Guile, we're getting a lot of ultimate from killing things. And then, because we are a Nord, when we take damage, you gain 5 ultimate and can occur every 10 seconds. Now, in that run, we were using the Balorgs, so if I were using Bloodspawn, we'd survive better, or at least somewhat. It's only 4k, but it is nice. But, I mean, you also get that 13 ultimate every 5 seconds, so, I mean, we generate like crazy. Now, for the looks of this build, I am not great with coloring, but the overall look I am quite happy with. So for the head, we are actually using nothing. This is her beautiful default face that I hit randomize on, and it is just a lovely face. So for the breastplate, we are using the Stags of Zen Jack, and this is the medium style of it. For the shoulders, we are using the light Ancestral Reach epaulets. For the hands, we are using the light Mazatoon gloves. For the waist, we are using the light Sea Giant sash. For the legs, we are using the medium Elder Guardian guards. For the feet, we are using the light Order of the Hour shoes. For the right hand, we are using a sword of the Huntsman. And for the left hand, we are using the Anquia dagger. Now this is actually, the weird blue glowing effect is because of the poison. That's not part of the swords. And then for the bow, we are using the Deadwater bow. For the browns of this, we are using the Wolf Furs brown. For the main swords, the dark gray, which is the handle, is prefix gray. And then for the main blade, we are using polished steel gray. For the gray, we are using Windhelm steel. And then for the green, we are using Woodsman green. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. We are going over the sets that are not used widely and are very much not going to perform as well as normal things would. I hope you guys enjoyed this content. Like and subscribe if you guys want to see more of this series. It would help out my channel quite a bit. And if there's any sets that you guys would like to see, please let me know down in the comments. I am aiming to do a spotlight on every single set out in the Elder Scrolls Online world. You guys will just help direct the path towards what ones we do first. There will be timestamps down in the video if you guys want to go back and check out some details that you may have forgotten or missed. I hope this build was fun for you guys to check out, and I will see you guys next time.